I'm Alani, and I'm back with another interview in our series where we're discussing self love, such an important topic. And my guest today, Tanika Bunbury, is here to share her story about choosing herself, saying yes to herself, and using self love as the engine to make that decision. Welcome, Tanika.
Thank you. So great to be here.
So let's dive into this conversation, right? Because Tanika, you're a part of our community, our Good Girl community, you're part of the Good Life community in general. And one thing that we share in common is that both of us are running nonprofits. I know that you've worked in corporate for such a long time and you had to make a decision about how you would function or not in that environment.
Well, when COVID started, I was laid off from a job that I had just started. I was maybe about 4 months into the job, and I had left a very comfortable corporate position, for a higher position, higher pay, and things of that nature. And I felt I was doing pretty well in that position. I was training people who were coming in after me, and I was flourishing. And then COVID hit, and I was laid off. They say last hired, first fired, and that's kind of what happened. And so I just didn't really know what to do after that. So it took a lot of time for me to um, reflect on myself and what I wanted to do with my life, and to really start praying about what the next steps were. Because in my opinion, I was going to go ahead and climb that corporate ladder, because it provided for a comfortable lifestyle and everything like that. But in my prayers and meditations, I found that this was the season, and it was a blessing. So some people look at a layoff as, oh, the world is
Right.
crumbling and all
Coming to
everything's
an
falling to
end. Yes.
pieces. But in actuality, everything's not falling to pieces. Everything, all the pieces are falling into place right where they need to be. And the next step for me was to actually start my nonprofit. So my mindset, after lots of prayer and meditation, I decided that instead of going back into corporate America, and trying to build and grow someone else's dream, I wanted to focus on my dreams. So for so long, I've been active in my community, active in my church, always working with youth. And I realized that my professional life didn't align with that. I was always doing something, it was still health related, but it wasn't anything I was passionate about. So I felt that this was the time for me to go ahead and take the steps to starting my nonprofit. The problem was I didn't know how to do it. I had no plan to do it. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to turn to. And before going into corporate America, I worked for multiple nonprofits, but I didn't ever do it at a leadership level. So I guess you could say I was a good worker bee, but never the queen bee. So now I have to
Right.
shift mindsets and learn
Yes.
how to become a better leader so I can lead
Mhm.
my team, even creating a team, forming a team to follow me, and making sure I have good and positive influence over those team members.
Mhm.
So it was just taking time to really think of myself. What do I want? Um,
Mhm.
where do I want to be? What do I want for my family versus working for someone else and, like I said, achieving their goals instead of stifling my dreams and things of that nature. I wanted to make sure that I was doing what was making me happy finally, and really focusing in on that.
Here you are, you've been laid off from your job. You're thinking that, okay, I'm moving out the corporate ladder. You had to hit the reset button. But tell me, that must have been an interesting transition. Can you tell me some of those challenges or obstacles that you encountered, and how did you overcome them to stay true to that decision that was motivated by self-love?
Okay. The first challenge was changing my mindset
Mhm.
from an employee to an employer, right? And establishing the Global Legacy Network Incorporated, I had to know that, okay, I'm establishing it as the executive director and the founder of this organization. And so I'm not someone's employee. I have to have control and leadership skills. I have to pull those out of my box. Like, I have them. I'm capable of doing this. Whatever I don't have, I have to go get. And so I've taken some classes. to help with leadership development and things of that nature. So the first issue that I dealt with was having a mental transition, because you have to go from someone constantly telling you what to do and leading you, and kind of having someone to go to for guidance, to being that person who was going to be kind of in control and knowing what the next steps are. And I did not know how to do that at this level. I've run programs before, but I've never been an executive director of a nonprofit organization. And that comes with a lot. And so I had to start doing research and figuring out, number one, what was like the goal and what's the target audience. Like, I had so many ideas. So I first
Yeah.
had to get out of my head, right? I had to start writing my ideas down, organizing my thoughts, finding out what's going to be required to actually start the organization. So that's a transition that I had to make. Another issue that I had to face was going from a 2-family income to a 1-family income. We had a daughter who was about to go to college, and I'm like, okay, so
How
I
am I
know
gonna
that
do that?
right. How can you do that? So it became okay, so we were going to pay out of pocket, which wouldn't have been like a bad thing, especially if she's staying in state. Then I was like, okay, now how is this going to work with the 1-family income? Because to start a business takes money. And so I had some saved up, but it wasn't enough to run the business efficiently, nor was it enough to send her to college for her first year. So I was like, okay, so what are some of the options that we can utilize to help finance her education in college, to keep the household steady, to make sure no one suffers because of me fulfilling my dreams, right? So I had to make sure I could find balance. So those are like two of the major things that I had to really face, the obstacles that I had to overcome in this
And those
transition.
are hard things. Those are hard things to overcome. I mean, at the end of the day, there are some things that could cause us to crumble.
Mhm.
But then, we have to dig deep within ourselves and find ways to be resilient and navigate through those things, because one of the key parts of self-care, and which is a part of self-love. I'm sure you had to dig deep and do some self-care
Yeah.
in that, as an act of self-love, being able to manage all of those transitions happening at the same time.
Right. Yes, definitely. So when you say self-care and self-love, one thing that I had to really um, have a mental tug of war with was keeping my membership to like a local spa, because I started just the year before, actually maybe 6 months before, starting to go for like monthly massages and facials and things like that to pamper myself. And I got real comfortable with that. But that was kind of my escape from, the stress of work, and even of being a mother, of being a wife, and being a human, in the world today. So that was like my one little getaway to make sure I took care of myself outside of my like long relaxing baths and things of that nature. I just wanted to make sure that I maintained that aspect of self-care, because starting a business is overwhelming, especially when you're starting it by yourself. It was just very mentally draining, overwhelming, and all I did was think about the nonprofit. I woke up thinking about it. I dreamed about the nonprofit. I went to sleep thinking about the nonprofit. I went on walks thinking about the nonprofits. I spoke to everybody about them.
Yeah, so it like
About
took
social.
over your entire being.
Yeah,
It was like
yeah.
you're breathing and sleeping and talking
Hmm.
about this
Right.
nonprofit. But it's so beautiful, Tanika, that in this moment where you could have crumbled, you were able to say, you know what, I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to chase my dream. I'm going to choose my dream this time, instead of staying down and being worried about the fact that, or consumed with the idea that I lost my job 4 months in, and what's going to happen and how am I going to do all of these things.
Right.
So, what I'm also taking from what you're saying too, Tanika, is that element of faith, and knowing that this dream was something inside me that was motivated by a strong desire to serve others, and that you believe that God will just guide you through that process of taking the nonprofit road.
Right. That's
Yeah.
definitely correct. Yes. I have a huge, huge love and trust in God. And I feel like if he's giving me something, he'll get me through it. So I don't worry about like the next steps and things like that. I just feel that he'll guide me in the right direction. And I just have faith that he'll make everything work out the way it should be. If I just continue to trust in him and not worry about what I'm thinking or what I can see that's tangible, have faith. Like they say, the faith of the size of a mustard seed.
Yes.
Just trusting that God's got it all in control.
Yes. Amen to
Yeah.
that. So, Tanika, my final question for you is, what is the piece of advice that you would give to somebody in a tough place, that's finding it very difficult to do something that would, in the end, benefit them and truly change their life? And that barrier is self-love and choosing themselves. What would you say to them?
I would say follow your gut. You have to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. In order to be beneficial to yourself, to others, and to not burn yourself out, you have to take care of yourself first. Like you have to, like they say, when you're about to, if you're in a plane, right? You have to
Yes.
put your mask on first before you put someone else's on, because you have to make sure that you're okay to be able to help others. So you have to invest the time to take care of yourself because no one else is going to do it for you.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
so key, Tanika, and that's just a very important thing for us to remember as we are faced with crossroads or we have to make decisions about, you know, how are we going to feel fulfilled in life?
Right,
And, at the end of the day, it starts with loving yourself enough to make the hard decisions or make the unpopular decisions or make a decision to stand up and
right,
speak out, for your own interest, which will also benefit other people because we're all on a journey, but we're not on this journey alone. There are other people experiencing the same struggles or similar struggles. And the fact that you can speak up or speak out, or even if you're not speaking out, the action that you take, because people are watching, right? So people are
right.
watching how you move and how you navigate situations, and the way that you care for yourself and love yourself, is a way for us to inspire other people. And Tanika, I'm glad that you've made the move that you have, to start your nonprofit and impact people. We've worked together, and so we've done some good work. And thank you so much, Tanika. I know that you're super busy, right? Because listen, running a nonprofit is like you got a lot going on. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. And yeah, thank you.
I just had one more thing to say. There may be someone that's listening today who is fearful, right? And they're afraid to take the next step. First of all, every journey in life starts with that first step. You have to take the first step. And someone who helped me to take that first step on my journey of establishing the Global Legacy Network Incorporated was my cousin. And so I was telling her how I felt like God kept showing me different things, and I kept dreaming about different programs and things like that nature. And I kept seeing it, like no matter where I went, I could see it or relate it to something. She said, I was telling her how scared I was, and I was like, I don't know if I should do it, and this is the time, the season, this and that. And so she was like, just do it afraid. Just do it afraid. And I was like, as simple as it sounds, that gave me that push out of the nest that I needed to spread my wings and fly. So if you are sitting there and you're contemplating, well, how is this going to work out? And how is that going to work out? And I'm so scared. And what if? You'll never know if you don't put that first step into your journey and try. Like, you will find a way. God will provide a way. If this is meant for you, if this journey is meant for you, you've got this. God has got you, and He will guide you through, and He'll give you all the resources that you need. So just do it afraid. If that's what's keeping you back, that fear, just do it afraid. Take that first step, and you'll be fine.
Amen. As they say in Jamaica, what is for you cannot unfeel you. Meaning,
Right.
if it's yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So be brave. That was our theme last month, but be brave. And a huge part of being brave is choosing yourself, loving yourself enough to take a risk that in the end will be beneficial to you. So,
Right.
great final words there, Tanika. Thank you all for watching, and go out there and think about how is it or how can I show myself love. Take care.
Bye.